আসসালামু আলাইকুম প্রিয় দর্শক শ্রোতা। আজকে আমরা আসলে মহিলা অঙ্গনে না, আজকে আমরা স্পটলাইটে। আমাকে দেখে হয়তো আপনারা একটু কনফিউজড, বাট আসলে আজকে আমরা স্পটলাইট অনুষ্ঠানে কথা বলবো আমরা ভ্যাকসিন নিয়ে। এই যে কোভিড ভ্যাকসিন, আমরা জানি যে এখন অনেকেই কোভিড ভ্যাকসিন সেটা নিচ্ছেন, রীতিমতো বুস্টার পর্যন্ত অনেকেই নিয়েছেন, কিন্তু তারপরেও দেখা যায় যে আমাদের রিসার্চ অনুযায়ী বা ইনফরমেশন অনুযায়ী দেখা যায় যে প্রেগনেন্ট মহিলারা এখনও অনেকে এই ভ্যাকসিনটা নিচ্ছেন না। এটা নিয়ে অনেক ধরনের অনেক প্রশ্ন রয়েছে এবং মিসকনসেপশন রয়েছে। সো এই মিসকনসেপশনটা দূর করার জন্য এখন সরকার অনেক ধরনের অনেক ক্যাম্পেইন চালিয়েছেন সোশ্যাল মিডিয়ার মাধ্যমে বা বিভিন্ন মিডিয়ামের মাধ্যমে অনেক ধরনের অ্যাডভার্টাইজমেন্ট চলছে যে এনকারেজ করার জন্য মহিলাদেরকে, প্রেগনেন্ট মহিলাদেরকে এই ভ্যাকসিনেশন নেওয়ার জন্য। চিফ সায়েন্টিফিক অ্যাডভাইজার যিনি, উনি লুসি ক্যাম্পবেল, উনি বলেছেন যে গেটিং দ্য COVID-19 ভ্যাকসিন ইজ দ্য বেস্ট থিং দ্যাট এ প্রেগনেন্ট women can do. আরও বলা হয়েছে যে most of the women who are hospitalized during the COVID নিয়ে during pregnancy are women who are not vaccinated. So দেখা যায় যে আসলে ভ্যাকসিনটার রিস্ক আমরা অনেকেই বলি যে আননোন রিস্ক রয়েছে ভ্যাকসিনের সাথে, কিন্তু তার চেয়েও হায়ার রিস্ক হয়েছে কোভিডের সাথে। যদি কোভিডে কেউ আক্রান্ত হয় সেই রিস্কটা অনেক বেশি। এই প্রসঙ্গ নিয়ে আজকে আসলে আলোচনা করার জন্য স্টুডিওতে দুইজন গেস্ট আছেন। একজন হচ্ছেন একজন গাইনিকোলজিস্ট আর আরেকজন ফার্মাসিউটিক্যাল পারসন। দুইজনেরই একজন জুমে আছেন আর একজন স্টুডিওতে আছেন। দুঃখের সাথে বলি যে আজকের অনুষ্ঠানটা যদিও লাইভ, আপনাদের কোনো ফোন ইন সেশন আজকে থাকবে না। সো প্লিজ এখন আপনারা আমার সঙ্গেই থাকুন, আমি এখন গেস্টদেরকে পরিচয় করিয়ে দিই। তো প্রথমে যার সাথে পরিচয় করিয়ে দিচ্ছি, উনি স্টুডিওতে আছেন, উনি হচ্ছেন ডক্টর Fatima Hussain. She is a senior consultant gynecologist. Assalamu alaikum, Fatima.
Wa alaikum salam, Hina. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're most welcome to the studio, to Spotlight program today. Do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Fatima Hussain. I'm a NHS consultant obstetrician and gynecologist. I work in the west of, just outside London. And my work involves looking after pregnant women. I also have a big interest in fertility, so women who are trying to have a baby, I look after them. So essentially the role that I'm playing today is a spokesperson for the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and conveying that message about pregnancy, fertility and COVID vaccine, and why we should encourage women to take that vaccine.
Thank you. There is a lot of misconception around these issues, so we will come back to you and we will hear from you more. So এখন দর্শক শ্রোতা কথা পরিচয় করিয়ে দিচ্ছি আপনাদেরকে যার সাথে, উনি হচ্ছেন Karina Patel. Karina, welcome to the program. And Karina, you work in the pharmaceutical industry.
I do. So I'm a product manager for a distribution company, a pharmaceutical distribution company. And my role is to help people with their formulations. I'm also a mum of two. I gave birth to my second baby just last November. And I've had all three of my vaccines, including my booster.
Okay, so we will obviously come to you to discuss about, you have taken the vaccine, yeah?
Yeah.
During pregnancy or before pregnancy?
During pregnant, well, I was pregnant throughout all three of them, yes.
All three of them, and you took the vaccine?
No, the booster, sorry, I had the booster after I had my baby, so I was breastfeeding when I had my booster, and I had the first two vaccines when I was pregnant.
Okay, so you have taken vaccine, the COVID vaccine during pregnancy and the booster after you've given birth, but you were breastfeeding at the time. So that's really helpful, and you work in the pharmaceutical industry yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, well, welcome to the program, to both Dr. Hussain and to Karina. And first of all, this whole initiative, so I'll come to you, Dr. Hussain. The initiative of the government is taking and the the science behind all of this, that vaccine is the right way forward in order to combat and stay free of COVID-19. This COVID infection is constantly mutating and taking one form to another. So at the moment there is the Omicron virus, the Omicron form that we are all suffering, and at the moment the young children seem to be affected more. But it is not to say that older people or young mothers are not going to be affected. So the government is urging people to take this vaccine. Which COVID vaccine should a pregnant woman, or why should a pregnant woman take this vaccine, and which one?
Right, thank you, Hina.
Because there are different vaccines.
There are different types, so we can... First of all, perhaps we should talk about the different types of vaccines. So people will remember in December 20, more than a year ago, the vaccines came, and that we were very lucky to have them developed. They had the AstraZeneca one, and then we had the Pfizer and then the Moderna vaccines. So Moderna and Pfizer are mRNA vaccines. That's quite a new technology, but it was really gone through all the trials. And initially, people may be confused because we didn't have pregnant women in the trials, so therefore it was recommended that they wait, except the high-risk group. And we gave initially we were giving different types, but from April of 21, the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna are the ones which pregnant women would be recommended to have. However, it is true to say that if they have actually had the AstraZeneca and they had no reaction to the first dose, they could also have that one. So majority of people I'm seeing now have already had the Pfizer vaccine, so majority are having that. So coming to your second point about why pregnant women should have it, and indeed women who are trying for a baby, why they should have the vaccine. So we just need to draw on the data from the UK Obstetric Surveillance Centre in Oxford, who published data about COVID infection in pregnancy. All that data is collected, and we're very lucky to have that data from the UK. And that showed between April and October 21, about more than 95% of women who were admitted with serious COVID infection, even went to ITU, were the unvaccinated women. And that was bad for the women. There were some maternal deaths as well, unfortunately. And actually the babies had a 1 in 5 chance of having to be delivered preterm, which has a long-term effect on their health. So that's the reason we, as a group of medical professionals, we back the advice from the JCVI and say that the COVID vaccine will protect you as the mum and your baby. And we can go into why, how does the vaccine work, and people may be worried about
We
its
may
effect.
come back to that. So let me just summarize in Bengali, because a lot of my audience are Bengali speaking. So I will just quickly summarize what you've said, because both of those points are quite important.
Sure.
So দর্শক শ্রোতা, যেটা ডক্টর হোসেন যেটা বললেন, যে ভ্যাকসিন, কোন ভ্যাকসিন দেওয়া উচিত এবং কেন ভ্যাকসিন দেওয়া উচিত, এবং তার পিছনে কারণটা কি। তো উনি যেটা বললেন যে হসপিটালে যেসব মহিলারা অ্যাডমিটেড, প্রেগনেন্ট মহিলারা যারা অ্যাডমিটেড, তাদের মধ্যে বেশিরভাগ দেখা যায় যাদের ভ্যাকসিন নাই তারা। তো এখানে দেখা যায় যে যারা ভ্যাকসিন নিয়েছেন তারা কিন্তু যারা অ্যাডমিটেড হয়েছেন তাদের মধ্যে কিন্তু ভ্যাকসিন নেওয়া মানুষ খুবই কম। সো ইটস নট দ্যাট এভরি সিঙ্গল পারসন হু হ্যাজ বিন অ্যাডমিটেড ইন হসপিটাল ডিড নট হ্যাভ ভ্যাকসিনেশন, but majority of them were people who have not been vaccinated. So এটা হচ্ছে একটা কারণ। তারপরে যেটা কোন ভ্যাকসিন, এখন 3টা ভ্যাকসিন, মেডানা, তারপরে ফাইজার, তারপরে অ্যাস্ট্রাজেনেকা। তো উনি বলছে যেটা যে যদি আপনি অ্যাস্ট্রাজেনেকা নিয়ে থাকেন আর তারপরে প্রেগনেন্সির সময় বা প্রেগনেন্ট হওয়ার পরে যদি আপনার সেকেন্ড ভ্যাকসিন বা বুস্টার নেওয়ার সময় এসে যায়, আপনি ফাইজার বা মেডানা নিতে পারেন। বাট আসলে 3টার মধ্যে যে কোনোটাই নিতে পারেন, তবে বেস্ট হয়তো ফাইজার বা মেডানা, এই 2টা বেশিরভাগ দেওয়া হয়। আর এইগুলোর পিছনে যে রিসার্চ যেটা রয়েছে, অবশ্যই আপনারা এটা খেয়াল করলে এটা আপনারা খোঁজ নিতে পারেন। বাট আমরাও চেষ্টা করব আমাদের প্রোগ্রামের মধ্যে আরেকটু এটা সম্বন্ধে জিজ্ঞেস করার। তো ডক্টর হোসেন, I'll come back to you. So Karina already has answered this. She said that she took her booster when she was breastfeeding.
Yes.
Are there any risks to breastfeeding mums taking any of these vaccines?
No, rather like pregnancy, where the woman would develop antibodies against the virus. The breastfeeding is shown to be very safe for the woman to have the vaccine. So, for example, if a woman, like Karina has mentioned, she had the course of immunization during her pregnancy, and then she's now got the booster. So you shouldn't wait till you finish breastfeeding, because actually after you finish the course, 3 months later you can get your booster. So what you're trying to do with the booster is get your maximum immunity. So it makes it much more worthwhile if you've completed the course to follow it on with the booster 3 months later, because then you can get good immunity against the infection. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'll just come to you, Karina. Karina, you said that you took both your vaccines during your pregnancy and then you took the booster. Did you, first of all, what was the reason for you to take those vaccines whilst you're pregnant, whilst most of the country was actually thinking that we won't take this vaccine, especially if people are pregnant?
So my main reason was initially I'd caught COVID before I was pregnant in February last year. And at that time, my symptoms were really bad. And then my initial thought was, I just need to get the vaccine. I need to make sure I'm protected. I then got pregnant in March, April. And at that time, I was thinking, okay, you know what? I need the vaccine because I need to protect myself and the baby. And at that time, a lot of pregnant women were ending up in intensive care with COVID that didn't have the vaccine. And I didn't want to be one of them. And I wanted to make sure myself and the baby were protected.
Okay.
And at the same time, so what happened after that is I did catch COVID again. So I caught COVID in June when I was pregnant. And had I not taken the vaccine, I could have been one of those patients ended up in hospital. But because I had had my vaccines, my symptoms weren't as terrible.
Okay. So, প্রিয় দর্শক শ্রোতা, এই যে কারিনা যেটা বললেন, কারিনা এটা বললেন যে উনি প্রেগনেন্ট হওয়ার আগে গত ফেব্রুয়ারি মাসে ওনার কিন্তু কোভিড হয়েছিল। কোভিড হওয়ার পরে উনি ভ্যাকসিন নিয়েছেন, তারপরে উনি প্রেগনেন্ট হয়েছেন। প্রেগনেন্সির মাধ্যমে ওনার কিন্তু আবার সেকেন্ড টাইম কোভিড হয়। তখন যেহেতু ওনার অলরেডি ভ্যাকসিনেটেড ছিলেন বলে সেকেন্ড টাইম ওনাকে হসপিটালাইজড হতে হয় নাই, এবং কোভিড সিমটম যেগুলো ছিল ওইগুলো খুব হালকা ছিল, এমন মানে সিরিয়াস কিছু হয় নাই। সো এটা একটা এক্সাম্পল আপনাদের সামনে যে ভ্যাকসিন থাকলে you can still have, maybe you will still get COVID if you come into contact with the virus, but it will be much lighter. যেটা Karina যেটা বললেন, তো তারপরে Karina, I would come to you again in terms of breastfeeding. You took your booster whilst you were breastfeeding. Were there any issues with either the breastfeeding, the milk, or with your child? Any reaction?
My child's healthy. There was no problems. The reason I wanted to take the booster while I was breastfeeding is because I wanted my child to have the antibodies and also be protected from COVID. And that was one of the main reasons I wanted to take the booster while I was breastfeeding.
So today, if our program is being watched by women who are pregnant, what would you advise them in relation to the vaccine?
I'd say to them, if you're unsure about having the vaccination, speak to your midwife, speak to healthcare professionals and make an informed decision. Avoid the risk of complications for yourself and your baby. There's so much misinformation out there. It's really important that you get your information from a trusted source, such as the NHS website or your doctor. And I'd say take the vaccine to protect yourself and your baby.
Thank you, Karina. So, Dr. Hussain, I'll come back to you. So, clearly, Karina is a good example of why women should take vaccine, because she's obviously had both COVID and the vaccines. Have pregnant women been involved in the trials for the COVID vaccine?
As you're probably aware, most new drugs, when trials happen for them, not drugs, vaccines, for example, pregnant women are not included. And that's simply the case for many new scientific cases. But what has happened since the vaccine was introduced across the world, real live world data, particularly from the United States, kept coming through. And I think by middle of last year, we had at least 200,000 pregnant women who had had the vaccine and had had their babies, and it was shown that they had protection against the infection, and indeed their babies were delivered safely. There was no impact on the pregnancy or their newborn babies. So that data is sort of real world data, because it shows that you can have it safely. And exactly as Karina says, I'm very impressed by her story, because she was brave enough to say, look, I'm going to get it. And like she said, she didn't get a bad infection. She could have had it, because remember, we had different variants coming in, didn't we? She probably got the Delta variant the second time, but that protection was very, very good for her.
And also, Karina herself is from the pharmaceutical industry, so she would have better knowledge of what's in the vaccine. So, You said 200,000, did you say?
Well, the figures are probably higher by now, but by the time it was recommended for pregnant women was in April 21 when Department of Health said this is safe. We'd already had probably about 150,000 by then.
So 150,000 women who have had taken part in the trial. That is a huge number.
Yeah.
So at what point did the advice for women, pregnant women, to take the vaccine change? Because initially there was a lot of confusion, and it was said that it should be elderly people or those who have compromised health conditions should take the vaccine first.
Absolutely. Well, I remember doing sort of videos this time last year, February 21, when I think our advice at that stage was if you're a healthcare worker, take the vaccine if you're pregnant. It was also health or social care worker. Also, if you had conditions which make you more susceptible, so diabetes, things like that, even if you were pregnant, it was supposed to be better for you. But then April last year, 21, we said all pregnant women should have the vaccine. And the reason for that is that data showing that infections, firstly it was safe, and infection was a bad thing to have if you're pregnant. We had data coming through from St. George's in data collected in 2020, which did show that increased preterm birth rate with women who were infected with COVID. It did show worse outcomes for the women. So that's the reason it changed. And in fact, what's happened now, the JCVI and the Department of Health have made pregnant women into a clinical priority group, into a susceptible group. So they already now, those groups that were there, 1, 2, 3, so they're in that group now as clinically vulnerable group.
Okay, so if any of my viewers today are pregnant and have taken AstraZeneca before they became pregnant, and now they're pregnant, what would be your advice for them to take as their second vaccine or as their booster?
I would say, first of all, they must seek advice from their own healthcare provider and make sure if they didn't have a reaction to the AstraZeneca the first time, they can have the second dose of the AstraZeneca. Majority of women by 3 months ago would have been having the Pfizer vaccine in any case, but that is the advice. And we have a guidance for healthcare professionals about various scenarios. And the other thing your viewers may want to be aware of is something called the RCOG, Royal College of Obs and Gynae and Royal College of Midwives website. There's lots of information. There are videos, there's a decision tool, and it's really important that they get advice from those trusted sources, because the problem that we're having now that Karina has already mentioned, there's a narrative somewhere along, with people being hesitant because of something they've read or somebody sent them a WhatsApp about it can do this and that. And I think you have to bear that in mind. You need to get some trusted advice. So
the primary contact would be their GP.
GP, or if they're pregnant, the midwives are very much involved in that campaign and would be supporting the vaccination for the women.
Let me summarize for my viewers. So দর্শক আপনারা যেটা শুনছেন ডক্টর হোসেন যেটা বলছেন যে যদি যে কেন প্রেগনেন্ট উইমেনরা ভ্যাকসিন নেবেন, এটা হচ্ছে যে অনেক ট্রায়াল হয়েছে, সেই যে গত 2 বছরের মধ্যে ট্রায়ালগুলো হয়েছে সেখানে অলমোস্ট এপ্রিল 21 পর্যন্ত অলমোস্ট 150,000 প্রেগনেন্ট উইমেন এই ট্রায়ালগুলোতে অংশগ্রহণ করেছেন। তারপরে দেখা গেছে যে এই ভ্যাকসিনগুলো অনেক সেফ, বাচ্চার জন্য সেফ, মার জন্য সেফ। যেসব মাদের ভ্যাকসিন ছিল না, সেখানে যারা কোভিড আক্রান্ত হয়েছেন তাদের বেবিগুলো প্রেমিচিওরভাবে ডেলিভারি করতে হয়েছে, সেখানে বাচ্চার জন্য এটা হেলথ রিস্ক আছে এবং মার জন্যই তো রয়েছে। সো এটা একটা কারণ। তারপরে কারণ হয়েছে যে ব্রেস্ট ফিডিং, যেসব ব্রেস্ট ফিডিং মারা যদি ভ্যাকসিন নিয়ে থাকেন প্রেগনেন্সির টাইমে বা ইভেন ডিউরিং ব্রেস্ট ফিডিং পিরিয়ডে, তখনও কোনো সমস্যা নাই। কারিনা অলরেডি বলেছেন যে উনি যখন প্রেগনেন্ট ছিলেন বা যখন ব্রেস্ট ফিডিং করছিলেন তখন উনি বুস্টারও নিয়েছেন আর প্রেগনেন্সির টাইমে উনি 2টা ভ্যাকসিনও নিয়েছেন, ওনার কোনো সমস্যা হয় নাই এবং দেখা গেছে যে এটা বাচ্চার জন্য ভালো, মার জন্য ভালো। তারপরে যেটা প্রশ্ন ছিল যে যদি প্রেগনেন্ট হওয়ার আগে যদি কোনো মহিলা অ্যাস্ট্রাজেনিকা নিয়ে থাকেন তাহলে প্রেগনেন্সির সময় কোন ভ্যাকসিন নিতে পারেন, হয়তো ফাইজার বা হয়তো মডার্না। তো এখন উনি যেটা বললেন, ডক্টর হোসেন যেটা বললেন যে যদি আপনি অ্যাস্ট্রাজেনিকা আগে নিয়ে থাকেন তাহলে আপনার সবচেয়ে ভালো হবে যেটা প্রাইমারিলি আপনি আপনার জিপি বা মিডওয়াইফের সাথে আপনি যোগাযোগ করবেন, কথা বলবেন ওনাদের সাথে, ওনাদের অ্যাডভাইস যেটা সেটা সঠিক অ্যাডভাইস। এই যে হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ গ্রুপ বা সোশ্যাল মিডিয়ার মাধ্যমে অনেক সময় অনেক ধরনের অ্যাডভাইস আসে বা ক্লিপস দেখেন আপনারা অনেক কিছু, এগুলো আপনারা অ্যাডভাইস হিসাবে নেবেন না। আপনারা যেটা আপনার জিপি বলবে বা যেটা আপনার মিডওয়াইফ বলবে, জিপি বা মিডওয়াইফ, তারপরে রয়েছে যেগুলো ওয়েবসাইট আছে, রয়্যাল কলেজ অফ মিডওয়াইফারির যে ওয়েবসাইটগুলো আছে ওইগুলো তো আপনারা সঠিক অ্যাডভাইস পাইতে পারেন। তারপরে যেটা পরবর্তী প্রশ্নটি চলে যাচ্ছে, আই উইল কাম ব্যাক টু ইউ কারিনা। কারিনা, my next question is, actually you've already answered my question. So you had COVID during pregnancy, you had the vaccine, you also had the vaccine during the time you were breastfeeding. Were there any worries in your mind at any point, or any hesitation in your mind at any point in relation to these vaccines?
I think when I took my first vaccine in my first trimester, I was concerned about taking the vaccine. At that time, there wasn't a lot of information on pregnant women taking the vaccine. However, my concerns were quickly resolved by speaking to the GP and looking on the NHS website. Your GP is pretty much there to advise you to take the vaccine, and they reassured me that it's safe for me to take the vaccine. Nothing's going to happen to my child. At that time, I remember there was a lot of myths going on saying that, oh, if you take the vaccine, your child can have later problems, birth defects, etc. But it was so simple to overcome these by just speaking to the doctor and just asking them the right questions and letting them answer them for you.
থ্যাংক ইউ কারিনা। দর্শক শ্রোতা, আমরা এখন একটা ছোট বিরতিতে যাব, বিরতির পরে ফিরে এসে আমরা এই প্রসঙ্গ কন্টিনিউ করব। আমাদের সঙ্গেই থাকেন। আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আসসালামু আলাইকুম প্রিয় দর্শক শ্রোতা, আমরা আবার ফিরে এসেছি স্পটলাইট অনুষ্ঠানে। আজকে আমরা কথা বলছি ভ্যাকসিন নিয়ে। প্রেগনেন্সির সময় ভ্যাকসিনের কি প্রয়োজন এবং কেন আমরা ভ্যাকসিন দিতে চাই বা দেওয়া উচিত। এইটা গভর্নমেন্টের একটা নিউ ইনিশিয়েটিভ। দ্য গভর্নমেন্ট ইজ আর্জিং এভরি প্রেগনেন্ট উইমেন টু অ্যাকচুয়ালি টেক দ্য ভ্যাকসিনেশন বিকজ ইট ইজ সিন দ্যাট দ্য ভ্যাকসিন ইজ সেফার। আমি বাংলায় বলছি, ইংরেজিতে বলছি, কারণ আমার গেস্ট দুইজন আজকে বাংলা বলেন না, তাই আমি একটু পরে পরে আপনাদের জন্য সামারাইজ করব। যে এখন আমি আবার ফিরে যাচ্ছি আমার ডিসকাশনে ডক্টর হোসেনের সাথে। ডক্টর হোসেন, সো in between the COVID, for a pregnant woman, when she's taken the COVID vaccine, how long should she wait before she should take another vaccine, or she can take other vaccines such as the flu vaccine?
Actually, what might be good for your viewers to know is what's the interval between doses. So for the COVID vaccine, the first vaccine, pretend I'm 12 weeks pregnant, have it today. Then the next one will be 8 weeks later, usually, can be 8 weeks later. Because it used
the vaccine period used to be 12 weeks,
yes.
Right. So now it's reduced.
Can be 8 weeks to try and get protection for the woman in her third trimester. Third trimester, after sort of 24, 28 weeks, this becomes a very risky time for the woman. So it's ideal if the woman has gone for her vaccine quite early on in the pregnancy, or even if she's had it before pregnancy, get her booster, but get the course completed so that by the time she gets to her third trimester, she's got antibodies against that virus if she's exposed to it.
Okay, so she will have the first vaccine, then she will wait 8 weeks, she will have her second vaccine. Then when can she have any other vaccine?
Well, the booster will be 3 months later, but the flu vaccine and the whooping cough will be arranged by her midwife if she's pregnant, and that they can be given at the same time. And majority...
So there's no need for waiting a period like another 8 weeks after the booster or anything like that?
Well, actually I tend to find that women, the most important one to have really is get the COVID one in, and then the flu vaccine can be given at the same time as the COVID vaccine. But some people are a bit hesitant about having two vaccines together, so it depends if they're in a very high risk group. I would recommend that they do have them at the same time, because you want to be protected against both.
Thank you. So the next question would be then, a lot of pregnant mothers would be thinking, what is going to be the side effect to my unborn child if I am taking all these vaccines? So there's 3 vaccines here in relation to COVID. And again, people are very concerned about COVID, isn't it? What's in these vaccines? So are there any research so far in relation to the development or health of babies?
Well, as I said, we've got a lot of data from America and also now in the UK, because quite a number of women, increasing proportion of women who are pregnant have had the vaccine, and they do not show any problems for the newborn babies when you compare the ones who are, the vaccinated group. Indeed, I would say that the people who have not been vaccinated, they do have a higher chance of catching COVID and having a preterm birth. So I'd say from the safety point of view of the vaccine, of course, any vaccine can have side effects, such as a bit of a fever, a bit of feeling fluey. That's called a side effect of the vaccine. Now, what I think is important for people to know, what is a vaccine? I think we always assume everybody knows how it works. Well, basically, the mRNA vaccine is a modified form. It's not a live virus, so you're not injecting the virus into your body. It's a tiny modified form, bit of that virus, the spike protein, which is injected under the skin. Then your own body produces its own antibodies to protect you, the mother, against an infection. And your own antibodies cross the placenta, and then your newborn baby will also be protected against that. So in terms of the side effects of the vaccine, I think what you're talking about is
side effects
of
to
long-term.
the baby, yeah.
I mean, the vaccine is just a tiny bit of chemical that's put in to help you produce a response. And don't forget, we've had vaccines for a long time, haven't we? Against whooping cough, against tetanus, against polio. We've got vaccines protecting us against major infectious diseases. And it happens to be now COVID is the one that is causing a lot of problems.
So in short, you will say there isn't any known side effects thus far.
Absolutely.
So দর্শক শ্রোতা, যেটা ডক্টর হোসেন বললেন যে প্রেগন্যান্সির সময় যদি ভ্যাকসিনেশন মারা যখন ভ্যাকসিনেশন দেবে, উনি অ্যাডভাইস করেন যে আর্লি স্টেজে একটা ভ্যাকসিনেশন নেওয়া উচিত, তারপরে 8 উইকস পরে 8 সপ্তাহ পরে আপনার দ্বিতীয় ভ্যাকসিনেশন নিলেন, তারপরে আপনার বুস্টারটা ইউজুয়ালি আপনাকে হয়তো 12 উইকসের মতো ওয়েট করতে হয়। তারপরে আপনি যেটা আপনার ফ্লু ভ্যাকসিনেশন যদি নিতে হয়, আপনি একই সাথে নিতে পারেন, particularly যদি আপনি কোনো একটা হাই রিস্ক ক্যাটাগরিতে হয়ে থাকেন। আর যদি আপনি হাই রিস্ক ক্যাটাগরিতে না হন, তাহলে আপনি হয়তো কয়েকদিন পরে নিতে পারেন আপনার ফ্লু ভ্যাকসিনেশন। অনেক সময় মানুষ ভাবে যে একসাথে কয়েকটা ভ্যাকসিনেশন নেওয়া হয়তো অনেক পেইনফুল হতে পারে এই জন্য, বাট দ্যার ইজ নো নোন রিস্ক ইন টার্মস অফ টেকিং ইট টুগেদার। তারপরে প্রশ্ন যেটা করলাম যে যদি একজন মা প্রেগনেন্ট অবস্থায় যদি ভ্যাকসিনেশন নিয়ে থাকে, তাহলে কি বাচ্চার কোনো সাইড এফেক্ট হতে পারে? আমরা অলরেডি কারিনার কাছে থেকে এটা শুনেছি যে কারিনার বাচ্চাদের কোনো সাইড এফেক্ট হয় নাই, বাচ্চা ভালোই আছে, সুস্থ আছে। এবং ডক্টর যেটা বললেন যে সো ফার কোনো নোন রিস্ক দেখা যায় নাই, এখনও কোনো আইডেন্টিফাইড রিস্ক নাই টু দ্য আনবোর্ন ফিটাস। উনি যেটা বললেন যে আনবোর্ন ফিটাসের জন্য এটা বরং একটা প্রোটেক্টিভ ফ্যাক্টর। Karina, if I can come to you quickly. So during your pregnancy, you took the vaccines, and you've already said that your baby is well and healthy. Are there any concerns in relation to any of your baby's developmental progress?
No, there's no concerns. Our baby's totally healthy.
Thank you. So, Dr. Hussain, I'll come back to you. In terms of the subsequent vaccination, which is after giving birth. Now, Karina's had her booster while she was breastfeeding. So is there a period how long a mother should wait after giving birth before she takes her vaccination?
I think the important thing to remember is the course of the vaccine is the booster should be given 3 months after the second dose of COVID. So if the woman's just given birth, but actually she's now more than 3 months from the last vaccine and she's going to be breastfeeding, she should take it then. She shouldn't really delay it. So we do say, look, don't wait to stop breastfeeding.
I guess regardless of whether you've just given birth or going to give birth, if it's 12 weeks after your previous, your second vaccination, then just go with the vaccination.
Yes, go
and
with it.
have your booster. Don't worry about whether you're going to give birth or you have given
Absolutely.
birth. Very
And I
good.
think you've highlighted a good point there. So the stage of your pregnancy, don't worry about what stage. Just get your course in and get your booster in so that you've got it all done and you're protected.
ডক্টর হোসেন যেটা বললেন যে যদি আপনি প্রেগনেন্ট অবস্থায় বা প্রেগনেন্সি শেষের দিকে বা বাচ্চা ডেলিভারি হয়েছে, এখন আপনি হয়তো ভাবতেছেন যে এখন আমার ভ্যাকসিন যে বুস্টারটা নেওয়ার দরকার কিনা বা কিছুদিন ওয়েট করব কিনা, আসলে উনি বলছেন যে ইট ডাজন্ট ম্যাটার আপনি প্রেগনেন্ট কি বা আপনার বাচ্চার জন্ম হয়েছে, ইট ডাজন্ট রিয়েলি ম্যাটার। আপনার খেয়াল রাখতে হবে যে আগের ভ্যাকসিনটা কতদিন আগে আমি নিয়েছি এবং এখন আমার আরেকটা ভ্যাকসিন ডিউ কিনা। যদি আপনার ভ্যাকসিন ডিউ থাকে in terms of 8 weeks বা 12 weeks, তখন আপনাকে ভ্যাকসিনটা নিতেই হবে, এটাই আপনার জন্য উত্তম। তো পরের প্রশ্ন যেটা আমি ডক্টর হোসেন, I'm coming back to you. Huge concern around fertility. So young women in many environments, in job market, in the various industries, young women are not taking this vaccine, and there was a lot of question around this vaccine, whether it impacts on fertility or not. What is, in terms of your knowledge, what is the findings on that?
Thank you, Hina. I think that's a really important question. And as you know, I'm a fertility specialist as well. So I spend every week talking to many women who are trying to have a baby. And my advice is really to make sure they do have the vaccine, because there's no evidence at all, if we think about the way the vaccine works, why it should impact pregnancy, fertility. Because the mechanism, for every impact of something, you have to think, well, how scientifically is it going to impact fertility? There's no scientific reason that it would impact fertility.
A lot of young women are concerned about that and have rejected the vaccination as a result. So what would your message be to those people targeted?
Well, I think you've got to remember, you're young women, you're out there, you're working, you're studying, you're exposing yourself to the virus. And remember, very soon, the whole country is going to be opening up. So there's going to be an increase in risk of getting infected with COVID. And what I would say, allow yourself that seeking of knowledge. In Islam, we say you seek knowledge. Get yourself armed with knowledge. Of course, you can listen to your social media feeds, you can listen to that, but please also try to get some information from British Fertility Society. We have a website which has lots of information. The Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists has information. Listen to both sides, make your mind up, but it's about science really. But it's an emotional thing, isn't it, for people feeling that it may impact it. But find out for yourself. And really, I would encourage them to get it, because it's much better to be resistant to the virus than to get it when you're actually pregnant.
And you are a gynecologist and you're giving this advice. So the other, and I guess Karina is a living example, because Karina, you said that you took your, you became pregnant after you took your first vaccine. Is that right? Did you say that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, thank you. My next question, Dr. Hussain, to you is, does the vaccine in any way have an impact on women's menstruals?
Okay, that's a question that came up last year in all the studies. As people probably know, there's a Medicines Health Regulation Agency gathers all the data about new vaccines, new drugs, and from that data we found that in the first or the second cycle after the vaccine was given, there may have been slightly longer or shorter cycles, but that impact did not go beyond that. And don't forget, no woman, well, some women might, but clockwork menstrual cycles are quite rare, and it is quite normal to get slight change in cycle length from 28 days, maybe it's 26 or 32. So that has been seen, but it's not something that would impact on fertility per se.
So does this, the impact on cycle, is that consistent, or would it be a short?
Just for the 1 or 2 cycles maximum.
And is that something that happens to every young person? Or?
No, it doesn't. It's been seen, it's been reported. I would say probably less than 10%, but I haven't got the exact data, but majority of those reports are sort of random reports, but we can't, if a woman thinks it's changed, we just accept that. But the main thing to know is it's not going to have a permanent impact on your fertility, and you shouldn't be concerned. Just protect yourself against getting COVID infection rather than, it's much better to be protected.
দর্শক শ্রোতা, যেটা ডক্টর হোসেন যেটা বললেন যে আমাদের এই ভ্যাকসিনটা কোভিড ভ্যাকসিন আসলে ফার্টিলিটি, এই যে যারা প্রেগনেন্ট ইয়াং মহিলারা যারা প্রেগনেন্সি নিয়ে চিন্তিত যে ভ্যাকসিন নিলে আমি প্রেগনেন্ট হতে পারবো কি না, উনি বলছেন যে রিসার্চ অনুযায়ী দেখা যায় আসলে এই ভ্যাকসিন আপনার প্রেগনেন্ট হওয়া না হওয়ার সাথে কোনো সম্পর্ক নাই। এই ভ্যাকসিন আপনাকে কোভিড থেকে আপনাকে রক্ষা করবে এবং আপনার আনবোর্ন বেবিকে রক্ষা করবে। করিনা অলরেডি উনি বলেছেন যে ওনার যেটা স্টোরি, ওনার আসলে ভ্যাকসিন নেওয়ার পরে উনি নিজে প্রেগনেন্ট হয়েছেন এবং ভ্যাকসিন নিয়েছেন। প্রেগনেন্সির সময় উনি 2টা ভ্যাকসিনই নিয়েছেন। তারপরে প্রশ্ন যেটা করেছিলাম যে মেয়েদের যে মেনস্ট্রুয়ালের সাথে কি ভ্যাকসিনের কোনো সম্পর্ক আছে কি না বা কোনো ধরনের ইম্প্যাক্ট আছে কি না, তো উনি যেটা বললেন যে হ্যাঁ, কোনো সময় দেখা যায় একদম হয়তো লেস দেন 10% বা 10% মহিলারা হয়তো রিপোর্ট করেছে যেখানে মান্থলি মেনস্ট্রুয়াল যেটা সেটা একটু ইম্প্যাক্টেড হয়, হয়তো সময়টা একটু ডিলে হতে পারে, হয়তো 21 দিনের জায়গায় 26 দিন, 31 দিন, 32 দিন এরকম একটা কিছু হতে পারে। বাট দ্যাট ইজ নট পার্মানেন্ট। এটা পার্মানেন্ট না, এটা মাত্র কয়েকদিনের জন্য এরকম হতে পারে, তারপরে এটা অটোমেটিকলি এটা নিজেকে নিজে ফিক্স করবে। তো এটা আসলে কোনো সিরিয়াস কোনো ব্যাপার না। তারপরে আমি আবার পরবর্তী প্রশ্নতে যাচ্ছি। Can COVID vaccine have an impact on anyone who is undergoing IVF treatment?
So with IVF treatment, there was some guidance issued. People who are going through that, they can have it at most stages of their treatment. There is 2 stages where there's some procedures involved, the egg collection, for example, and then the embryo transfer. The egg collection is probably a little bit more invasive. And what we do recommend is that it shouldn't be given just before that, because you want to know if there's any problems with the egg collection or a result of that procedure. You don't want to mix it up with side effects of a fever from a COVID vaccine. So majority of IVF units will guide their patients. There is information on the British Fertility Society website, but certainly through that course of the treatment, majority of the time it can be you can have it. And I think it's a good idea, because when you're pregnant, you don't want to catch COVID.
So would you suggest that if somebody is planning to take the IVF treatment, they have the vaccination beforehand?
Absolutely.
But what about, and if somebody is on the treatment already, so maybe during the treatment they don't take during the procedures,
yes,
obviously that is the time to avoid.
A few days around, they can. I mean, ideally, I think it would be great if people could have that planning for that. They will know when they're going to have their procedure. So get your course done beforehand, but please don't delay just because you're having your IVF treatment. It's important to be protected, because if people get COVID infection during IVF treatment, it's very disruptive. Remember, there's the isolation period and then all of that. You don't really want to go through all that disruption.
If somebody is in the treatment itself, the treatment, so IVF treatment, not that I understand too much of it, but the procedure is at one stage of the treatment, isn't it? So once the procedure has taken place, when the embryo, the egg, all of that has been dealt with, thereafter you're okay to go and have your vaccination.
Yeah, you are actually. So I think what you're describing, the egg collection and the embryo transfer, is usually within a 5-day interval.
All right.
And maybe after that you could have it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Can I then move on to, if a woman has had a miscarriage in the past,
yes,
and now she is pregnant, should she wait before she takes her vaccination in case there might be some worries?
Well, there's no scientific data which shows that having the vaccine will impact on the chance of having a miscarriage. So I'd actually say it's a good opportunity for a woman to perhaps optimize her health before the next pregnancy and use that time. Usually women wait a couple of cycles, don't they? Get yourself immunized. And there's lots of things, what we call preconception planning. If you're overweight, lose weight, start your folic acid. And this should be regarded as
part of that
preparation.
Okay.
So I think it's really important that women realize to protect themselves.
Okay, thank you. I just want to, my next question is around, and you've addressed this a number of times, and I will ask you again, so that young people out there, young women out there who are either pregnant or thinking of getting pregnant and have concerns, do understand that the impact of pregnant women not having the vaccination is far greater than having COVID, isn't it?
Absolutely. So the whole point of this campaign, and we do urge you to talk to your own GP or your midwife, but the point is, please get the vaccine. Don't wait till your pregnancy is over, because pregnancy is a state of what we call relative immunosuppression. If you think about it, a woman, when she carries a baby, she's carrying a little bit of foreign material, it's, the partner's genetic material. So she has to have a slightly suppressed immunity to keep that pregnancy going. So because of that, she's a bit more susceptible to infections. And as the pregnancy advances, that risk, after 28 weeks particularly, it gets higher. So we don't want them to get COVID. I've been to the intensive care and seen...
If a pregnant woman was to contract the virus, most pregnant...
Well, I've looked after many pregnant women over the last couple of years who've got COVID. They're on the labour ward. It's very... Well, it's quite sad to see them because a lot of restrictions happen. People can't, the visiting and
the
things.
risk to the unborn?
The risk to the unborn is that sometimes we have to do a caesarean earlier than the baby would have been born because the mother's lungs are affected, the mother's ventilation is affected, so intensive care treatment may be needed. So all of this, particularly, can I say, as this is a programme focused on the Southeast Asian community, it has been shown that certain groups, the black and ethnic minority groups and people with underlying conditions such as diabetes, which is again more common in these groups, that group of people have been shown to have a worse outcome with COVID infection. So in fact, there's even more reason that we in that community should be saying, right, we've got the vaccine, let's have it. I mean, look, Africa, many people don't have that vaccine and that protection. And that's really important.
Due to constraint of time, I'm having to rush you. And my last question to you is, if a pregnant woman has questions around this COVID, you've already said to speak to their GP, speak to their midwife, or go on to...
RCOG, RCM website, British Fertility Society and the NHS government website for COVID.
Thank you so much.
There's a lot of information.
Let me go to Karina. Karina, I haven't forgotten you. I know you're there, and you've already helped us quite a lot explaining about your own experience. So in your opinion, why is it important for a pregnant woman to take the vaccine? And this is drawing from your own experience of what you have gone through, because you're a very, very, what shall I say, you're in the right place to talk about this because you have suffered COVID, haven't you, twice?
I'd say, yeah, definitely. I'd say the COVID vaccine will provide you strong protection against the virus. It'll also keep you, it'll prevent you from getting seriously ill. And if you do catch COVID, the symptoms won't be as bad as not being vaccinated. So I'd recommend all pregnant women to get the vaccine.
Thank you, Karina. Thank you so much for taking part in this program today. It's been really, really helpful hearing your story, because you have pharmaceutical knowledge and experience, and at the same time you've experienced COVID. You're a young mother, new mother. Your baby was born in November, and you were breastfeeding. You've taken your COVID, and your baby is fine, and you are fine. So thank you ever so much for coming on to the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Is there any other advice you want to give to our viewers tonight?
I'll just say do your own research, and if you're hesitant, just speak to your GP and your midwife, and they should be able to guide you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Hussain, what would be your last words for our viewers tonight?
Well, I'd say absolutely what Karina said, echo her words, that is to protect you. You have an opportunity to protect yourself and the baby, so please get the vaccine. Don't wait for the pregnancy to be over.
Thank you very much for coming to the studio tonight and sharing your knowledge with myself and my viewers. দর্শক শ্রোতা যারা আপনারা স্টুডিও পর্দার পিছনে আছেন, পর্দার সামনে আছেন, আজকের অনুষ্ঠান দেখছেন, আপনাদের জন্য এটাই সবচেয়ে গুরুত্বপূর্ণ মেসেজ যে it doesn't matter what your concerns are. আপনাদের প্রশ্ন যেটা থাকবে জিপির সাথে আলাপ করেন, মিডওয়াইফের সাথে আলাপ করেন, এবং অনলাইন অনেক রিসার্চ রয়েছে যেগুলো আপনারা দেখতে পারেন। তবে ভ্যাকসিন নেওয়াটা আপনাদের জন্য খুবই 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 জরুরি। এটা মানে এটা ইটস নন নেগোশিয়েবল। আপনারা এটা নিয়ে মানে ভ্যাকসিন না নেওয়া একটা কোনো অপশন নাই আপনার জন্য এবং আপনার আনবোর্ন বাচ্চার জন্য, দুইজনের জন্যই ভ্যাকসিন নেওয়াটা খুবই জরুরি। আজকের অনুষ্ঠানে আমরা যে একজন ইয়াং মাদার, উনি যে কথা বললেন, ওনার নিজের এক্সপিরিয়েন্স, ওনার 2বার কোভিড হয়েছে, সেকেন্ড টাইম যখন কোভিড হয়েছে প্রেগনেন্ট অবস্থায়, যেহেতু ওনার ভ্যাকসিনেশন ছিল ওইটা লাইট ছিল, একদম লাইট টাচ। তো এরকমই অনেক কথা আপনারা জানেন যে হসপিটালে যেসব প্রেগনেন্ট মহিলারা রয়েছেন, মেজরিটি অফ দেম ডিড নট হ্যাভ দেয়ার ভ্যাকসিনেশন। আর কত বলবো আপনাদেরকে, আপনারা নিশ্চয়ই এইটা বুঝতে পেরেছেন এবং আপনাদের বাচ্চাদের জন্য আপনারা এই ভ্যাকসিনটা আপনাদের নিতে হবে। আজকের অনুষ্ঠান এখানে শেষ। আশা করি আপনারা যে যেখানে আছেন ভালো থাকবেন, সুস্থ থাকবেন, আর অবশ্যই আপনাদের কোভিড ভ্যাকসিন নেবেন। আমরা এখন একটা ছোট্ট একটা ছোট্ট ভিডিও দেখিয়ে আপনাদেরকে এখানেই শেষ করবো আজকের অনুষ্ঠান। আসসালামু আলাইকুম।